Ready to roll? Yep. Okay. Okay, we got a hot mic, so we're on the air. We'll call the meeting to order, and I will ask Sheriff McAndrew if he will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Sheriff.
Yes, sir.
Welcome, everybody, to the April meeting of the Prison Board of Lackawanna County. I trust everybody's had the opportunity to review the minutes that were circulated by Tracy. And having done so, I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the March meeting. Do I have a second?
Second.
On the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. The March minutes are approved. I will note for the record that we had an executive session meeting of the prison board on April 2nd to discuss personnel matters, which needed immediate attention, and so we did that over in the courthouse. And we're also going to go into executive session later on today to discuss a couple of personnel matters as well. But at this point, it's an opportunity for the public to address the board on agenda items, and Joan is up.
Joan Hodawan at Scranton. With regard to the warden's report, and welcome back. I think he's learned to abandon his evil ways. We'll see him for a while. I was looking at the overtime comparison chart, comparing this year's pay periods with last year. We've had 6 periods so far. And I noticed that this year, the amount expended on overtime has gone up significantly by $231,000. I also note in the warden's report that he's recommending several hires. My question is, if when he addresses his report, is this going to bring back overtime expenditures back to a baseline, and will this help solve the overtime expenditure issue? Thank you.
That's certainly the motivation and the hope that it does, yes. Yeah. But the warden will speak more to that when he gets his... Okay, anybody else from the public on agenda items? Okay, if not, we'll move to the first motion, which is the motion to approve all current payables for the Community Correction Center and the prison. I trust everybody's had an opportunity to review those. They were circulated prior to the time of the meeting. And if so, I'll entertain a motion to approve those. I'll entertain that this afternoon sometime. Okay. We have a motion, we have a second. On the question, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the ayes have it. The motion is approved. We'll get to the Controller's report. Controller DeBillio.
Yes, Judge Gibbons. Controller's report for the prison, inmate, and canteen accounts. As of March 2024, the Controller's Office reviewed the prison and inmate and canteen account reconciliations, which were prepared by the Prison Business Office for the month of March 2024, and found no discrepancies between the reconciliations and the bank statements. The balance in the inmate account was $474,158.15 as of March 31st, 2024. The balance in the canteen checking account was $379,461.44 as of March 31st. In addition, as of March 31st, the canteen account also included a balance in the Pennsylvania Local Government Investment Trust investment accounts of $900,561.71, which earns approximately $3,768 per month, and which will mature in July of 2024. During the month of March 2024, $107,227.83 was paid from the canteen account for the benefit, welfare, and education of county inmates. In an itemized detailed report of those expenses are attached. And that concludes my March report.
Thank you. Any questions for the controller? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve his report.
Motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
On the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. The controller's report is approved. Next, Mr. McConaughey, would you give us kindly the Community Corrections Center report, please?
Good afternoon, everyone. This is the house arrest report for the month of March. Adult house arrest had 160 participants. Juvenile had 29. Programs revenues, house arrest had $49,411.21. Juvenile had $6,600 for a total of $56,011.21. Year-to-date totals for both departments is $166,579. Programs expenses was $61,077.35. Programs completions were 34. Programs violations were 6. We still have 5 outstanding warrants for house arrest. Overtime's at 8%, expenses at 29%, and revenues at 25%. And that's the end of my report.
Thank you, Norm. Any questions for Mr. McConaughey? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve his report.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
On the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. The Community Corrections Center report is approved. Thank you, Norm. You may not recognize him after losing 25 pounds, but we're now going to have the warden's report.
Well, good afternoon, Board. The average daily population for March was 806 inmates, 634 were county inmates. We averaged 710 adult males, 7 juvenile males, and 96 adult females. And the average daily population of U.S. Marshal detainees was 172. Our overtime and out-of-county boarding reports are attached. The staffing update, currently our correctional officer numbers break down to 166 full-time officers that are on shift, 7 out on workers' comp, 2 on continuous FMLA, 68 with intermittent FMLA, 1 on administrative leave, and 6 full-time vacancies with 12 part-time vacancies. That's a total of 182 out full-time officers. And to just quickly address Joan's concern, it should help out. I mean, the fact that when you add up the vacancies, 6, and those that are out on different types of leave, there's another 10. That's 16 officers that were down. And that's the reason for those increased overtime numbers. So any hiring of any full-timers will help with that. The budget as of March 31st, revenue was at 18% and expenses were at 27%. Extraordinary occurrence reports, there were 2 in the month of March. On March 6th, a newly committed female was found to be uncooperative with attempts to process her during the booking procedure. This individual was displaying erratic behavior, and attempts by prison staff to de-escalate the situation were unsuccessful. It was determined to place her in the emergency restraint chair for her safety, as well as the safety of all involved. On March 11th, a female inmate was displaying signs of agitation and then was observed tying a shirt around her neck and her bed. Responding staff deployed OC spray, pepper spray, entered her cell and freed her from the makeshift noose. This individual was uncooperative with staff efforts to assist her and then became combative with responding staff, and a decision was made to place her in the emergency restraint chair for the safety of all involved. PREA, there was 1 PREA investigation in the month of March. It was an allegation of inmate-on-inmate sexual contact and was deemed founded. The completed investigation has been forwarded to the DA's office for further action if deemed appropriate. Training, this is the good news segment of this report. Our basic training program has been approved by the Pennsylvania Department of Corrections. Prior to this approval, our officers had to complete a 5-week basic training course at the Lackawanna County Prison, and then within the first year of employment, they had to go away for 4 weeks to Elizabethtown, the PA Department of Corrections, for certification. We no longer have to do that. We're just, now our 5-week program counts for both things because they were very repetitive and we got it certified. So it's going to save us a lot of overtime. It's going to save us 160 hours of overtime for every full-time employee. And I believe we have 11 employees right now that we're hoping to get grandfathered in under this because they got the same training that we submitted to the Department of Corrections that was approved. And if so, it's going to be in the range of about $70,000 in overtime savings, just not having to send them to Elizabethtown. And moving forward, every single employee, again, 60 hours, 160 hours of overtime, we don't have to pay somebody to work for them while they're at training. I wanted to give special thanks to Lieutenant Robert Brown, Sergeant Joseph Alloy, and Sergeant Alex Schimmelfeneg. They were key in the getting this basic training program certified, and they deserve all the credit. Personnel, I can put that up till after the executive session, Your
Yes,
Honor?
yeah.
And that'll conclude my report then.
Your overall average daily population started with an 8. That's the first time we've started with an 8 in quite a while, right?
Yes, yeah. I call pre-pandemic numbers, and yeah, today's number, we were at 806 this morning. So we're floating right around that 800 mark right now.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions for the warden?
Oh, thank you.
If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve the report of the warden.
Second.
On the question, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, warden. Okay, opportunity for members of the public. Joan, you're up again.
Joan Hodewant, Scranton. First question, are we going to have another audit for the year 2023? We had Kohansky do 2022. Are we going to do this on an annual basis?
I think we can.
I don't see any reason that we can't. I think does anybody have any particular thoughts either way?
I mean, it comes at an expense, and I would question the necessity of it since it's so recent. I would prefer to see it every few years, every couple of years, rather than annually. It doesn't. I think the things that were produced by it were impactful, but we need one to develop protocol to make any changes, and it's very unlikely an annual audit will reveal anything of significance, in my opinion.
Anybody else? Any other members?
I agree with District Attorney Powell. Actually, although I wouldn't be opposed to an annual audit, but it's probably not going to bring up anything impactful. This past audit, did reveal the fact that we have a lot of money that must be escheated back to the state, and happy to report that we're in the process of dealing with the state now and escheating money back to as many people that we can get back in their hands, former inmates. And so we're working on that process right now. But as far as all the money being, where it's supposed to be, no money was missing in any manner, but that is up to the board on what they'd like to do as far as annual audits or every couple of years.
I would understand if you wanted to go with it every couple years, but I would hope you don't drop it entirely.
Oh, no, it's,
Largely because as personnel change, you have personnel changing in county government and other things, I think it's a useful tool, and even if it's every 3 to 5 years, but it needs to be done periodically.
absolutely, and I think everybody else seems to be nodding their heads, and my experience
One
on
we did
some.
last year was the very first, wasn't it, Gary?
It was, yes.
So
First
it
in a
was
while,
useful.
yes.
Yeah. My other question is, this morning at the commissioners' meeting, I asked about the status of a facility in Lackawanna County to house violent juvenile offenders, and I understand that we're looking at allocating a wing in the prison for their purpose. My comments are, one, I hope that down the road you look at a standalone facility. I think it's very important that we house such offenders in the county so that they can have physical contact, if possible, with their families. Sticking them in Ohio or even Bucks County is a second-best solution. And down the road, hopefully, you can plan for some kind of standalone facility, especially with the uptick in gang activity that needs to be done. The other thing is, if you go ahead and look at that as a long-term solution, even the wing in the prison, are you going to have to look at hiring additional correctional personnel? Will this affect the staffing that you currently have at the prison? And maybe that's something that the warden should be looking at. How would it affect overtime, kind of thing? How many people would you need, you know? Those are, it's not just a matter of having beds available. I think it may affect staffing too. So I'd like your comments on that. Thank you.
Well, and I think that everything you say is spot on. I think long-term, you know, I don't know what's going on inside the minds of the commissioners, but certainly inside my mind, I think a standalone juvenile facility, you know, would be appropriate, regardless of the level of violence of the charges against the offenders. We had been sending our juveniles down to Northampton County, but we're not able to do that because they don't have room for them anymore. And so sending them away is not really a feasible option anymore because the places that would normally be accepting them are full. So I think currently, you know, isolating a wing within the prison is the most immediate and feasible option for it, but I think long-term, you know, I'm on your page.
How does that affect staffing?
Well, it would necessitate additional staffing, for sure.
Can I add, I'll add one comment to that. To your question, a cost-benefit analysis is being prepared. So how much staff, how does it affect the budget? So we're working through all those numbers. That's why we're not ready to announce anything official yet.
There's a different type of training involved, too, with juvenile offenders.
Yeah, the juveniles and the adults have to be handled differently. So, as you said, Commissioner, you said there's an analysis going on right now? But I know it's in the process, Joan. I know they're in the process. I know a state representative was up there that looked at the facility. Would I be correct, Commissioner? A representative from the state came up to look at the facility. I think he approved it.
Correct, yeah.
So, it's in the works.
But it's money that we have to spend, bottom line.
Well, there's no beds available. My office transports them. And Northampton County, for example, they have the option whether they will accept the inmate or not. So they could just tell us, no, we're not taking him without.
And other counties are experiencing the same issues. We just, this past last...
Do you have to segregate male from female?
Yes.
Last Wednesday, we had a couple of judges come up from Lehigh County who toured the prison with our president judge and the warden and the deputy wardens. So, you know, everyone is experiencing the same issues. Thank you, Joan. Anybody else from the public?
Good afternoon. Denise Brown Troop. There was recently an article in the Scranton Times regarding the Lackawanna County tablets and the use of books in Luzerne County. So it prompted me to do a little bit of reading because it stated that the county has lengthy spreadsheets available of material available. There's 3 sheets of books that are available, different educational, GED, religion, all kinds of different things. The contract also states that those are to be offered free to the county and to the inmates. So I'm wondering why there's a time limit on reading. If they were reading the information given in the core program, shouldn't that be unlimited free time? Then I looked a little bit further, and I found that the prison is getting a 25% revenue share for movies, books, games, and music that are offered on the tablet. So they're paying between $1.80 a minute for books and movies and $3 an hour for games and music. On top of that, beginning in 2023, the county is being paid an additional 2% revenue share every year up to 8% in 2026. I just feel like we're making an astronomical profit off of the friends and family of the inmates in the prison. Thank you.
Colleen, can you speak to that?
Hello. I can speak to the question of the free time versus paid time on the tablets. She's correct. Denise is correct that the educational material is available for free. There's a free profile on the tablets for the inmates, but we do monitor or control the amount of free time available. At one time, it was maybe 3 hours a day, and we're up to 5, I believe. And at that time, it was more about controlling the availability of the tablets to the inmates, so that way everybody has the opportunity to access. And then there was another option of, the other question of basically monitoring screen time. We wanted to offer the resources for free, but we also don't want to encourage 24/7 time on tablets. So there really isn't a specific reason as to why we just can't offer for free for 24 hours a day. So I don't know if that's a satisfactory answer, but it's just certain things are free, certain things aren't, but it's just about controlling the free time.
How many tablets do you have?
Right now, we're at a 1-to-1 ratio. So
How many tablets, actual physical tablets, do you have out there?
I don't have a count as of today, but I would say about 800. So I do know that we have 1 tablet for every inmate, except for the inmates that are in restrictive housing. They don't have access to the tablets.
Denise, you were raising your hand?
There's unlimited paid time, but there's limited free time, which doesn't make sense in my head. Like inmates can stay on the tablet as long as they want, as long as they're paying for it.
Yeah, you're correct.
So the part of the tablet program is offering the 3 pages of reading material that's not being offered to the inmates for free.
We can always consider increasing the free profile time, if that's something we wanted to do.
Okay, all right. Well, we can take a look at that.
As for the other information that Ms. Brown was speaking of, that was all in contract negotiations that we weren't involved in. That was with the county and Viapath. So with all the profits and everything like that, that was all predetermined at the inception of the contract.
I also forgot to point out in the last contract that the rates are based on a population of 580 inmates for the contract to be renegotiated. I kind of feel like that's setting a financial goal to keep people in prison. Thank you.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else from the public? Bev? Just so board members know, this sheet that is in front of everybody's seat is what Bev passed out. prior to the time of the commencement of the meeting.
Bev DeBarro, Scranton. Not last Sunday, but the Sunday before, maybe you saw, I hope you saw the front page of the Times. Under this is the volunteers work to aid inmate library. That wasn't about our library. I mean, our lack of library in Lackawanna County Jail. And that was about Luzerne County. That reporter called me and told me about the Luzerne County Jail creating this library for the inmates of free paperback books. It was everything like we started out to do in the beginning of 2017. So brought back memories, for one thing. Everything they said, why they did it and everything was the same as our motivation. Jim Wilbur, I'm going to quote from that article by Melissa Janowski. Jim Wilbur, head of the Luzerne County Correctional Services, welcomes the book collection by Leadership Northeast, a nonprofit civic volunteer program. It's a good plan, he said. The facility has accepted hundreds of books already. It's one way inmates can make positive use of their time, and the facility's previous supply of books was worn out. Well, our previous supply of books was not worn out. The books were great condition. There were 1,000 of them when we left for COVID. When we come back, they were all gone. That book room was empty of 1,000 good books. In addition to that, on the one wall of that room, there were wooden shelves, which the Qurans are there, and some Bibles are there. And we had hymn books there, a whole shelf full of them. They were also gone. So when we start back, it will have to be from scratch again. And I'll go back to the article. Volunteer Joshua Perry said that this is a community benefit. It really can have a huge impact on the individual's life. Of course, we know that. Then she quotes me, which you all know, the background of ours. Then it says, Lackawanna County Deputy Warden of Operations Colleen Orzel said by email, paperback books could be used as weapons or fashioned into body armor. So I don't know what that means, except that I know that a paperback book is not even as big in dimensions as those tablets that I've seen in there. And the tablets have a hard plastic cover frame around it, so I think that would be more dangerous physically. But that's what it says. Then she quotes Judge Gibbons. Then back to Colleen. I think the county provides printed copies of self-help books, and inmates' families can buy directly from publishers. Well, these are the self-help books that are for free down there. And as far as I know, they're still in the cartons in the jail. I haven't seen any of them in any of the blocks. This was pre-COVID. This was when we started. One of the inmates told me about this organization in Florida that provides books like this to the jail for free and for people to keep, not just to circulate. So immediately got in touch with them. That was a big deal because they deal through the chaplains of the jails. We didn't have a chaplain at that time. So I said, we have all these hundreds of people, but no chaplain, but we do have a book program. And so back and forth, and they were approved, and they were all sent to me.
and then I would bring them in, put them on the shelf for circulation like we did with the other books.
Bev, you're past your time limit, so
I'm not done yet.
I
Really.
realize that, but, everybody has a time limit. Nobody,
Could you make an exception for this important thing?
you're a couple minutes over.
Okay.
I'm sorry,
So a
but
couple more minutes.
time's up, Bev.
So then, after a while, I thought, well, these could be sent directly into the jail. We don't have to have them processed. They'll already be there. I made posters, we put in all the blocks. These free books are available. All you have to do, I think, is contact your counselor or the CO, and you'll get your books. But like I said, they're not distributed. They're still coming to my house. We're putting them in the recovery bank. We're giving them to outreach. But it's in the jail that they have time to read these important books.
Okay, thank you, Bev.
Please.
Bev, thank you.
Okay. This is on your conscience. Could the commissioners override this time limit? There's nobody else, is anybody else?
We don't know
going-
if there's anybody else that wants to speak. People come up one at a time. There are other people in the audience, so I don't know.
All right.
Anybody else from the public?
Maggie Craig from Scranton. I'd like to start by thanking Bev for the countless hours she puts into volunteering at the prison and all the help she gives with keeping us, on a moral track, and her own personal hours that she gives. I mean, I don't even know how much it is. I know it's a lot. And personally, I would like to thank you and acknowledge that. So thank you, Bev. I'd also like to remind the board that over half of the population at the Lackawanna County Prison is incarcerated because they cannot afford cash bail. And so these are people who, and that's correct, right, Ward and Betty? We've spoken about that before. That's about right, around half. So these are people who are not convicted of a crime and who cannot afford cash bail. And so when we're talking about tablet time being restricted for people who cannot afford to pay, but unlimited for people who can afford to pay. Access to paperback books being available to people who can afford to have their families buy them from Amazon, but not available to those who can't. I think that knowledge should be present as we're talking about who has access to literature and information. Commissioner Gahan, as an educator, do you think there's a difference between reading a physical copy of a book or reading it off of a screen?
Me personally, I prefer a physical copy. It's just
Yeah.
harder for me to read things off of a screen.
That's the same for me. And I have the privilege of teaching English literature at one of our local colleges. And that's something I encourage all of my students to do too, read the physical copy. It's something different, right? And so if we have a volunteer who's willing to bring in physical books, paperback books, for the people who are incarcerated at the Lackawanna County Prison, they're doing it in Luzerne County. We've done it here before. We ended it because of COVID. Why aren't we prioritizing this as something that we can have at Lackawanna County as well? I'll leave that as an open-ended question for now. And I think also I'd like to mention, I love living in Scranton. On my drive here, I saw my neighbor, and it turns out that he used to run the GED program at the prison. And he told me that he hasn't been able to get the GED program up and running again. Program funded by the Canteen Fund. We have the money to fund it. It ended because of COVID, and it just hasn't been started again. So what can we do to make access to education and literature better for these people who are under your care?
Warden, could you elaborate on that GED program if you can? I thought that was still going on.
That's accurate. We're not doing GED at the prison now. I hope everybody realizes I'm a big advocate of GED. When I got this position, that was one of the first things I pushed for, and I'm still for it. I don't know off the top of my head if, I'm not sure who she's referencing there. I do know that we would be more than interested to talk to whomever wanted to do a GED program there. The problem we might be running into is availability of our classrooms. Our classrooms have been significantly impacted since the onset of COVID because of the court's use of video courtrooms. They are our classrooms. So during normal daytime hours, a lot of what we had as classroom is really reserved for courtroom. If we're talking evenings, I'm sure we could work something out. It hasn't come to my attention that somebody was looking to fire that back up, but I'd be more than interested in talking to him or her.
I thought we were doing it in conjunction with outreach.
What they are doing is we have it on the tablets. We have GED preparation courses,
Okay.
and they're coordinating testing.
Okay.
They're not even testing on site, but they're coordinating off-site testing. So when the individual is released, they can go take the
Okay.
GED
Oh,
test.
all right, okay.
Yeah. And I'd like to get back to being able to do testing. We have to get recertified as a test site
Okay.
and whatnot. So I'd like to get there.
Okay,
Can I
thank
just
you.
say one thing on that? So, and I know I mentioned this to Colleen before, but the fact that you can't use those classrooms, to me, is just unacceptable. That I know they're being used for video court, but the whole point of the classroom is to use them to educate and GED and everything else. So the fact that you can't use them, to me, doesn't make sense.
Is this something maybe we can revisit next month too? I know you're all very busy and I don't see is it something we can maybe find a way to move forward on between the physical books, paperback books being available to people and the GED program? I don't
The
expect you to have
GED
answers right
program,
now.
for sure, Maggie. I mean, that's, the availability of the classrooms, okay? It's not just court time, it's parole time. There are parole violation hearings that go on in there with state inmates and county inmates. I've spoken to Judge Barrace about the need, to free up our classrooms at the prison and not to have them. That's one of the main reasons behind the construction of the Criminal Justice Center outside the back of the prison. So there's 2 courtrooms there. And I will push them again to free up the classrooms.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Can we revisit paperback books? Or is that like a no, never going to happen?
At this stage of the game, I don't think that it's a feasible option, okay? We've had, a lot of problems with the security involved with the books. It's not with Bev or her volunteers, okay? It's just that these tablets seem to be, working well. And I don't have a problem with exploring more time on the tablets or less or even no cost to the inmates on certain things with the tablets to broaden their options of what's available for them to read. But at this stage of the game, what I can tell you is we'll talk among ourselves
Okay.
and see. Okay?
Yep, thank you.
Anybody else from the public? Okay, I'm going to ask you to step outside. We have executive session. Okay, so we're back. We had an executive session to discuss some personnel matters. Warden?
Yes, I'm looking to have the following individuals, I'm recommending them for hiring for full-time correctional officer positions, looking for the board's approval. The individuals are Carter Gettinger, Al Temple Jr., Jesse Chobe, Thomas Luter, and also William Cruiser Jr. and Timothy Alden. All 6 have experienced a tour of the facility. They've been interviewed by prison staff, and they've earned positive recommendations for these full-time positions. And we're hopeful of getting the approval of these recommendations so that we can get a class started May 1st.
Okay. Anybody have any questions for the warden? If not, I'll entertain them. They're all COs?
They would all be full-time correctional officers. yes,
Okay,
sir.
all right. So I'll entertain a motion to hire these 6 individuals as corrections officers.
Second.
On the question, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. Okay, Warden, would you just double check with Tracy before you leave so she has the right spellings of the name?
Sure.
For the minutes,
Absolutely.
please.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Any of the members have other business? Okay, if not, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
On the question, all in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you.